And right now we're going to do the top. Now let me tell everybody this. We will be putting a couple copies of these two exports on a site. I don't know exactly where it's at. I will ask Ward to text it out to everybody or send us a chat noting where you can go to find that on the cameracompany.com website. Later today, these will be available. You can download them and follow along so that, you know, if you miss something right now, don't worry about it. You're just fine. This will take you right through it. But for example, if we wanted to export a social media, let me try this. I think I can do this. I played with this earlier. If I go right to, I thought it would let me just open up that window. I guess it won't, so we're not gonna worry about it right now. What we're going to do is we're going to go to that export and we're going to create an export that will be in our menus to use in the future. So the first thing I do is I want to export to the hard drive. I think I can get this thing to, if I do it this way, move it over a little bit. Let me tell it that I want to share a different desktop. It did it earlier today, but it's not going to do it now. Anyway, at the top, export location. We want to export to our hard drive. I always export to my desktop. The reason I do that is that normally when I export those files, I want to be able to use them right away. So I'm going to export to my desktop. I'm going to check the little checkbox here that says where I want it to be put into a subfolder, because you don't want to export 50 images and have them scattered on your desktop. You want them to be in a nice, concise package. So we'll put them in a subfolder. My subfolder in this case, I'm calling social media. And social media is Facebook, LinkedIn, any of the other different venues that you want to use a low-res image for. Maybe you want to send them in an email to someone. You want to keep it nice and simple, and we're going to then, I don't care about renaming them, so I'm just going to close that right now, but the file settings are important to me. I want to export a JPEG. I want to export it as sRGB because that's the color space we want to work in. And I want to export a quality of about 80 to 100%. Let's just go ahead and make that 100%. I tell it to resize my image so that the long edge is only 1200 pixels at a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. The reason being is it's going to keep my file size small, as well as for screen resolution, 72 is going to be just fine. 1200 pixels works great. And it also keeps your file small enough that if people were to download that file off of Facebook or off of Instagram, they're not able to make prints from it. You know, that's your image. You don't want to share that with the world and have them out there making prints. But it represents it well on screen. So on an iOS device, an Android device, or if you're on your main computer, they look great. I tell it to sharpen for screen just a standard amount, and I include all my metadata. Once I get all this filled in, I can come over here and click Add at the bottom left. You see the bottom left of the this dialog box for exporting the file? I can click on Add. Once I do that, it's going to ask me to name that preset. And in this case, I've already created a preset called Social Media Low Resolution. And let's just, once you're done, you hit Create. And what it does is it creates that preset for you. So now every time you want to export, all you have to do is look at or drop down to that menu, and I'll show you that in a minute. We're going to do one now for high resolution printing. It's the same exact setup, except for now what we're going to do is we're going to put in a subfolder called To Print Photos. I'm going to make sure that the quality is 100% JPEG sRGB, and I do not resize it to fit anymore. I turn that off. I also change my resolution to 300 pixels per inch. This is going to give you a file that's large enough that when you go to the printer, it's going to print it properly, matching your color. The resolution is going to be great, and depending on how big your image is and how much you've cropped it, you can make some fairly large prints. I also turn off the screen sharpening because we don't need that. The output printer will handle that for you. And then I include all my metadata. At the same time, when I'm done, I come over here to Add. I name that one for printing, high resolution. I click Create, and now I've got a preset Couple things about the presets. If you don't like the way it's named, you've titled it wrong. If you just right click, you can go in and rename it. So we're going to rename this one for printing. And I click OK, and you can see it renamed it. Now, as I click down to social media, you see it changes everything to the social media presets we set. If I go back to for printing, it changes it to our presets here. When we're all done, I'm just going to close this window. I can right click on my image, and in right clicking on my image, I go down to export, and now you see under user presets, I have the preset for a low resolution. So I'm going to export a low resolution file right now. I'm going to right click again, come down to export, and I'm going to tell it to export a high resolution file. So what it's going to do is send those files to my desktop and make those available for me to use in social media or to print later. So what I'm going to do right now is open up both of those files. You probably can't see this yet. Oh, yeah, I guess you can. Here you go. You can see the to print photos, which is my high resolution file. Now that file is 29 megabytes in size. The low resolution file that I sent out is only 1.2 megabyte in size. So I can share the 1.2 megabyte file all day long through email, Instagram, Facebook, put them up on Flickr, wherever I want to put those, and make sure they should be basically safe. People cannot make any large size prints from them. If I want to send one to Wisconsin Prints or the camera company or to a friend, or I want to print it myself, I now have a 29 megabyte file. It's the same image. If we open these images up, and let's make that a little bit smaller. Let's open this image up. Try that again. Okay, I'm going to put these two images side by side. They basically look the same. If I take a look at the inspector, show the inspector so I can see the tools. This image on the right is the low resolution image. So you can see it's 1.2 megabytes. It's only 1200 pixels by 810 pixels. Where if I click on the one on the left, it is now 7,265 pixels by 4,901 pixels. And it is also 29.8 megabytes in size. Now on a screen, they both look the same. That's not a big deal. But if I start to pull this one up, and let's move over and see the police chief. Now the low resolution one, if I blow it up the same amount, you can see that he's got to be there somewhere. He doesn't look so great. Even if I back out a little bit, he's pixelated. So the idea is make a file that's the right size for putting on the internet and make a file that's the right size to go ahead and print. Does this make sense to everybody? If it does, give me some thumbs up, please. Do I have to change something here? Ward, can you see the thumbs up emoji? Yep, I'm getting some, then give me a chat thumbs up since it seems the other one is not doing what I thought it should do. Any questions? Please feel free to type those in the box. Does this make sense to everyone? I hope. I've got some thanks and some yeses. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much. Let's talk about that. Ryan asked, did we miss watermarks? Let's go back into our export menu. And yes, I did not mention those, and thank you for bringing that up. And it's even on the list in front of me. Watermarking, a lot of people like to throw a watermark in. So what you can do is you're building your, I'm going to go to the low resolution one for right now. I can come down and I want to click on watermark, which is almost at the bottom of the menu. And then what you can do is you can say, I want a simple watermark to be in there, or I want to edit watermarks. So if you don't have one, you can go in and do edit watermarks. It's going to open up a little window, and then you can go ahead and type in what you want. So for this one, I just threw a copyright Dave Anderson on there. And what I can then do is come in and do some text options and say that I want it to be huge and in the center of my image. I can change its opacity so that it's ghosted back. I can make it so it's really strong. I'm going to leave it strong just so that we can see what's going on here. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to create a watermark. I'm going to call it center. I'll just call it center. Hit create. Now I've got a watermark that says center here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this as a social media. With watermark. I've now created that file. So now let's do this. We're going to say done here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to export. And now you can see in my export menu, I have a social media with watermark. So I'm going to say, yes, go ahead and overwrite this one. I don't care. I now have that in my file folder. If I open it up, you can see we have a social media with watermark. How many people use watermarks? Give me a thumbs up, or go ahead and type in that you do in the chat window. Some say yes, some say not often. No, but should be doing it. Yes, I agree. I don't do it enough myself, which I'm totally guilty of. Sometimes not much. You know, I don't think it's a bad idea to do it, and you can have some fun with them. There are a couple companies out there that, if you know, for just a few dollars, they will create a custom watermark for you. I know a lot of people will sit there and sign their signature a half a dozen times on a piece of paper and then scan it in to see what it looks like, and then they'll make a PNG file for it and put that as a watermark. And you want to do it, if you're doing it yourself, as a PNG file, because a PNG keeps a transparent background so that you can lay it over the top of another image. And they work really, really well. I've done a couple myself, and like I say, I'm guilty, I don't use them enough. So this is basically how you go about creating two exports. And as I said, a little bit later today, we will have these available for you. And I should be up on the screen. Why am I not on the screen there? I have your name there, Ward, or I guess I don't. I am on the screen. So we see you, thank you. Yeah, what you want to do is create those exports, use them. It makes life so much easier. I've been using these two exports for probably about 4, 5, 6 years now. And they're very quick. What I do is as I said, I like to save them to my desktop, because by saving to my desktop, I can use them right away from there. And I generally don't keep those files after I use them. I normally toss them out because they're so easy to re-export from Lightroom that I'm not using up a lot of my hard drive space. Everyone's got their own systems. So I'm going to do this. I think I can unmute all of you at the same time. And I'm also going to ask, how does RAW change the process? It doesn't. The bottom line is that once you import your images into Lightroom, whether you import them as JPEGs, RAW, DNGs, whatever format that you import them, when Lightroom exports them, you want to export them as an sRGB color spaced JPEG file 99% of the time.
Okay.
Ward is letting us know that he just gave us a location for those images, and what I will do is put those up there. How do I unmute all, Ward? Do you have any idea? Ward is riding shotgun as my co-presenter here, and I know that there's a way to do this. Well, please use the, yeah, I think so too. I might have to individually unmute. But if anybody's got, oh, there's Jerry. Hi, Jerry. I like your background. Anything to add? Was this helpful? Kind of sharpen the saw, keep things going?
This was great, efficient, to the point, and effective.
This is what we'd like to do. We'd like to do probably, you know, maybe 3 of these a week. Keep them to under a half hour so that you can get it. We'll call it the Lightroom minute or something like that. What would you like to see? I mean, I teach the class, so I can take you from beginning to end on this. I think we might want to do one on importing and organizing your images. We can do one of those. Would that be helpful? If so, give me a thumbs up, or hey, I think I get my thumbs back up again. If that'd be helpful, give me a thumbs up again. Hey, there we go.
Dave, everyone should be unmuted now.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Ward. So,
how about, I'm curious about working with virtual copies and the pros and cons.
okay.
Maybe that's something you can discuss at some point.
We can do that. I'm writing a note for myself right now. I know Word is probably keeping all the notes coming in here, but virtual copies are great. And that's something we should, you know, I mean, again, I don't want to go down any big, deep rabbit holes right now, but one of the advantages of a virtual copy is I go crazy. I'll go back and look at something I edited 5 years ago and go, you know, it's just not quite talking to me yet. So let's try that again. So what I will do is I'll go in and create a virtual copy and reset it, because it's like it's non-destructive. I take it all the way back to how I imported it originally. And then what I will do is I'll re-edit it again and you know, like it or not like it, and continue on. And sometimes I'll have 5 or 6 different virtual copies. Virtual copies can also be very beneficial if, as a portrait photographer, you're delivering portraits to people. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to pre-crop them. I just don't want to give them one random file. I'll give them a file that they can print 8x10s from, 5x7s from, 4x6s from, and 11x14. So I'll give them 4 different crops of the same image. And by doing that, I'm keeping control, because how many times have you gone in and had, you know, go to print something and find out you're cutting Aunt Martha and Uncle Bert off the left and the right because of the fact you had a 4x6 aspect ratio and you're trying to squeeze that to an 8x10. Well, when you do that, then all of a sudden you get bars on the top and the bottom, and you don't like those. So I like to take control of that. So we can walk through that in one of the episodes too. Any other comments? Back, a little quick note on virtual copies too. A lot of people will make a collection and put virtual copies in their collection. When you edit that virtual copy, even though it's in a collection, it edits the original that's back in your library. So I've had people get very upset that they made edits to something that they thought was independent from another part of their Lightroom catalog, and not understand that those are still tied together. And we can walk through that in an episode too, on how to create collections and manage them responsibly. Anything else?
Great idea. Great way to keep us all involved. Thank you.
Randy, anytime.
Dave, does anybody use Topaz Lab software?
I have it loaded. I have not used it. One of the things I do want to do is explore more with that in terms of its noise reduction capabilities. I guess I'm fortunate that, you know, the cameras that I shoot will do higher ISOs without too much of a problem. And in Lightroom, with just a little tweak of the luminance slider, I can normally knock out anything that I don't want. But I have done some more later evening shooting since, you know, I've been kind of sequestered here and not allowed to go and play in my normal places. So I have noticed a little more noise, and I think I'll be exploring with that some more. So are you looking at the noise reduction specifically?
Both noise and sharpen.
Okay. Yeah. We can go through and talk about sharpening in Lightroom also. We can talk about how we can export from Lightroom into Photoshop and do some sharpening in Photoshop and then bring it back into Lightroom for the rest of our adjustments. I know that I will probably get 5 or 6 nasty grams on this one, but I think Photoshop is a beautiful plugin for Lightroom. The purists out there are more Photoshop is the be all and end all, and Lightroom is, you know, the stepchild. But to me, the organizational capabilities of Lightroom and how that works. And I am a big fan of Photoshop too, but I can do 90% of my heavy lifting in Lightroom and then take the 10% out to Photoshop.
I'm relatively new to Lightroom. One of the questions I have is there, you know, if I wanted to create an album and eventually export that for a photo book.
Yeah.
Is there a way of recording comments relating to the content or the location of picture or what it was all about?
Yes. Let me see if I can't, I've got to come back in here and share a screen. Okay, in the library mode of Lightroom, for example, this picture, there is a place down here, comments not supported here. Why are comments not supported here? They should be. I have to figure out what I turned on or off on this one, but there is a place that you can actually put in comments. You can caption it also is a way of doing it. You can go in, you know, so I can throw in a comment in here like Chief Smith, safe at home, and then that caption will go with it. And if I remember correctly, there's a way to export that with it. You would create a collection for it, put it in the collection, and then that would go out with it. I will make a note and confirm that, and hopefully we'll do a quick 15-minute little seminar on that.
Thank you.
Dave, have you ever used the book option, creating a book?
I have not. Well, actually, that's not true. I have, but I find that if you're going to like Wisconsin Prints and you're going to build a book, it's so much easier to build the book in the Wisconsin Prints. You know, this has some nice features to it, and I don't remember who they go to, but it's an option that they have. They also have a web option that if you want to create a web page, you can go in and create some HTML content. I don't use that out of here because to me I like the right tool for the right job. And while if you're doing a one-off here and there, it's not bad, but in day-to-day operation, you want to use probably, you know, if you're doing Web Dreamweaver or Muse or you know Squarespace or things like that. So here what it just did is it put together, I had all these selected and it just gave me a book option for all these, and you can see all the page numbers and everything here. If you want to clear the book, you can clear the book. You can go to different layouts, one photo per page, you know, left side blank with a photo, right side blank with a photo. You can do all sorts of auto layouts. It works, but it's not where I would go with it. Again, it's the right tool for the right job. Okay, I haven't seen create collections. That's a great idea. You know, can always Photoshop out this. Yes, I can. I can Photoshop the skeptics out. I prefer to win them over. You know, I'm kind of love everyone's way of doing it, and everybody's got different ways to get to the same destination. Any other questions, moan, groans, complaints, concerns, anything else we can do today? If not, thank you very much, folks.
Dave, I just have one thing to say. So we're going to be offering probably around 25 online seminars through the month of April. And if you just go to our webpage under classes, you'll see a listing of all the webinars, and we'll be adding more daily. So thanks, Dave. Appreciate you taking your time out to do this. And thanks everybody for attending.
Thank you. And don't forget to go download those screenshots. They'll be available a little bit later today.
Thanks for the information.
Thank you for taking your time, folks, and we hope to see you on the next one of our next seminars. So as I always end it, follow us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you much.